Today, I am going to tell you about the most hated car brands in America and why people still buy them. And this topic matters because understanding those patterns can save you thousands of dollars, a lot of stress, and maybe even a broken-down car on the side of the highway during your morning commute. This is the F Car Habits podcast, and I want you to be able to throw this on while you drive, wrench on your own car, sit at work, or unwind at the end of the day, and still walk away with real, high-value automotive insight that actually helps you make better decisions in the real world. When people talk about the most hated car brands, they usually are not looking at engineering diagrams or powertrain analysis charts. They are remembering how it felt when their transmission slipped for the third time, or when the service advisor smiled while handing them a four-figure repair bill on a car that was barely out of warranty. Let me think. The first thing you need to know is this. A brand gets hated in the real world when three things line up: weak mechanical reliability, bad ownership cost analysis, and poor communication from the dealer or manufacturer when things go wrong. And when all three hit the same customer, you get rage, not disappointment. I have seen it in the shop over and over. Someone rolls in with a shiny crossover from one of these infamous brands, still making payments, still believing the marketing. But the car is already on its second transmission, and the engine is starting to burn oil, and you can see it in their face. Seriously? How is this thing falling apart already? Now let me tell you about one customer story that really stuck with me. A young couple showed up in their driveway special, one of those aggressively styled compact sedans from a brand that lives on flashy ads and deep subprime lending. They were proud of the car. Low down payment, monthly note that barely fit the budget, but within a year it had a check engine light every other month. Every time I scanned it, I saw a new code. Lean condition this week, misfire next month, evaporative leak after that. Nothing catastrophic at first, but death by 1,000 cuts. And while I was doing my advanced automotive diagnostics, they were doing emotional math in their heads about whether they could even sell the thing without taking a loss. They told me the dealer brushed them off with the classic line, "They all do that." And yeah, from the back of the shop, we used to joke that when a service writer says they all do that, what they really mean is, this model has a design flaw we are tired of hearing about. But nobody upstairs wants to pay to fix it the right way. So, why do people still buy from these hated brands, really? A big part of it is simple. They know how to make the monthly payment look sexy. I have sat in dealership finance offices where the whole game was stretching a loan to 7 or 8 years just to get someone under $400 a month. And when someone is desperate for a car, that number blinds them to the long-term cost. The brands that rack up the most complaints are often the same ones that flood auctions with off-lease and repo inventory. Those cars come back beat up, under-maintained, and then they get polished and sent right back to the front lines at buy here, pay here lots, where someone with bruised credit signs up for another round of punishment. Now let me tell you about a different angle, the mobile mechanic side. There is a certain family of mid-size SUVs that I almost expect to see sitting crooked in a driveway with the hood up. You pop the hood, you already know the story. Cooling system leaks, plastic parts everywhere, transmission that is allergic to heat and towing, even though the commercials showed it hauling boats through the mountains. What? I remember one client who bought that SUV used from a small lot, thought they were getting a deal because the payment was low and the paint still looked good. Within 6 months, they had done a water pump, a thermostat housing, and were now facing a transmission overhaul that cost more than the remaining balance on the loan. From a technical automotive knowledge standpoint, none of this is random. These brands cut corners in materials and engineering, use fragile plastic where they should be using metal, push small engines hard to hit fuel economy numbers, and then rely on aggressive marketing instead of serious long-term reliability testing. and the public ends up doing the beta testing. No, for real. When you look at long-term vehicle reliability, the hated brands are not always the absolute worst in every single category, but they are the ones that create the biggest gap between expectation and reality. The commercial promises adventure. What the owner gets is a powertrain analysis report that reads like a horror novel by year 5. Now, this also happens with certain compact cars that target first-time buyers. The price seems low, the styling looks modern, the tech inside is flashy, giant screen, bright gauges, ambient lighting, but under all that is an engine and transmission combination that was built to a price, not to a standard, and the maintenance strategy is basically hope and pray. Oof! I had a kid fresh out of school call me out to his apartment complex. His little compact would not start. Starter was fine. Battery tested good, but the timing chain had stretched so far it finally jumped, which on that engine meant bent valves and a repair bill that simply did not fit his life at all. So when you hear someone rant about the most hated car brands, remember this. Behind every angry online review is usually a real person who feels trapped. They owe more than the car is worth. They cannot afford to fix it right. They cannot qualify easily for another loan. And they are realizing that the brand they trusted did not build a car for long-term performance. They built it for short-term sales numbers. Yeah. That is why I always tell people, do not just look at the badge or the monthly payment. You have to look at total ownership cost, known problem patterns, and how that brand handles warranty repairs and recalls. Because hatred builds up when people feel ignored, just as much as when the car breaks. Now let me shift gears and talk about another kind of hated brand, the high-tech darlings, the ones packed with screens, apps, and over-the-air updates, the cars that feel like smartphones on wheels. These brands create a different kind of love and hate cycle, and from the diagnostic side, they are a whole new challenge. Oh, I remember the first time I got called to look at one of those sleek electric sedans in a condo parking garage. The owner loved the instant torque, the quiet ride, the futuristic feel, but the car had a stack of glitchy issues, random warning lights, door handles that would not present, and a charging port that decided it didn't feel like unlocking. From a mechanical reliability angle, the electric powertrain itself was fine. Battery temps looked good, inverter was healthy, but the supporting hardware, latches, sensors, small actuators, all the little things that make the experience seamless, those were not built with the same level of long-term durability, and so the customer kept losing days dealing with service visits. The thing about these tech-heavy brands is that people still buy them, even when they hear the horror stories, because what they're selling is not just transportation, it is identity, status, and a sense of being early to the future. And that emotional pull will overpower a rational ownership cost analysis for a lot of folks. Now, let me tell you a quick dealership story from the new car side. Back when one of these tech-focused brands started showing up at auctions after lease returns, I watched dealers circle them like sharks. They knew the cars had panel gap issues, fit and finish problems, squeaks and rattles. But they also knew that once detailed and parked out front, they would pull people onto the lot like a magnet. Seriously? I heard one sales manager say it out loud. These things sell themselves. We just have to get someone in the driver's seat. Let them feel that instant torque. And the conversation shifts away from build quality and toward monthly payment and tech features. And that is exactly how a brand can be loved on social media and hated in long-term ownership surveys at the same time. From the finance and loan perspective, these brands often attract buyers with solid credit who are willing to roll negative equity from their last ride just to upgrade to the newest model. That means even if they start to hate the car 2 years in, they are so upside down on the note that they feel trapped, which only adds fuel to the frustration. Yikes. I sat with one customer who was trading out of a glitchy, tech-heavy hatchback into another one from the same brand, just newer. And when I quietly did the math, they were carrying thousands of dollars of old debt into the new loan. But the payment barely changed because the term got stretched, and they signed because the new screen looked cooler, and the salesman said everything was improved now. This is where long-term vehicle reliability and smart maintenance strategy collide with human nature. People want to believe the update fixed it all. They want to believe the new generation solved the issues from the forums. And the brand marketing leans hard into that hope. But if the underlying engineering culture does not change, the same patterns show up all over again a few years down the road. Now, this also happens with some luxury brands that used to have rock-solid reputations, but over time chased complex gadgets and cost-cutting instead of simple, proven engineering. And you see it clearly when you work at auctions, because the cars from those brands show up early and often with warning lights lit up like a Christmas tree. Geez, I cannot tell you how many supposedly premium SUVs I have seen roll over the auction block with air suspension faults, transmission limp mode, and oil leaks staining the undercarriage. And yet, someone in the crowd still raises a hand, buys it cheap, cleans it up, and it ends up back on a retail lot with a shiny price tag and a refreshed interior. From the outside, it looks like madness. Why would anyone keep buying into brands that generate so much hate? But once you have watched this cycle from the shop, the driveway, the auction lane, and the finance office, you realize it is a mix of emotion, marketing, short-term thinking, and a lack of honest, data-driven recommendations, reaching regular drivers in a way they can actually use. Yeah, that is exactly why this conversation matters. Because if you understand how the most hated car brands keep selling cars, you are way less likely to become their next angry customer, and way more likely to pick something that quietly does its job for 10 years while you live your life. Now let us get deeper into the patterns that really define these hated brands, and how you can spot them before you sign anything. Okay, so one of the biggest red flags is when a brand has a long history of engine and transmission issues across multiple models. Not just one bad design year, but a pattern of failing automatic transmissions, oil consumption problems, timing chain failures, or turbochargers that do not make it past 100,000 miles under normal use. From a powertrain analysis standpoint, that tells you the company is not learning fast enough from its own mistakes. They are either reusing weak designs to save money or cutting validation testing short to push new product out. And the end result is the same. You pay to be their test bench while they quietly revise parts behind the scenes. Come on! I have torn down engines from several of these hated brands, and you can literally see the cost-cutting, thin bearing surfaces, plastic thermostat housings sitting right on top of hot aluminum, tiny transmissions stuffed behind heavier vehicles than they were ever meant to push. It is not a mystery why things fail. It is baked into the recipe. Now let me tell you about a sedan that haunted my bay for a while. This thing was from a brand that is constantly dragged in owner forums. Nice-looking car, great on paper, but by 60,000 miles, it had a slipping transmission, clogged catalytic converters, and a list of electrical ghosts that would drain the battery overnight. The owner was done emotionally, long before the bank was done collecting. They had done everything the dealer told them. Regular oil changes, scheduled services, even some optional add-on flushes they probably did not need. And still the car was falling apart. So when they asked me, should I fix it or get rid of it? The ugly truth was that either way, they were going to take a financial hit. That is another reason these brands get hated. The ownership cost analysis is brutal once things start to go wrong. You are not just paying for a repair. You are paying while the car is down, maybe renting something, maybe missing work, and then you realize the resale value is trash. because everyone else knows these cars have issues too. Wait, this is where repos and subprime lending come back into the picture. A lot of these hated brands get pushed hard in markets where buyers are already stretched thin. The loans are long, the interest is high, and when the car starts breaking, payments fall behind. The lender does not care that the engine is knocking. They just send a truck to take it back. I have watched that play out in front of apartment complexes and small houses. You see the tow truck backed up at 2 in the morning. You see someone standing at the window feeling sick. And by the time the sun comes up, that car is on its way to an auction lane, about to start the cycle all over again with a new buyer who has no idea what they are walking into. Really? Yeah. And when you stand at those auctions, you notice something. Certain badges show up again and again. Late model, high miles for their age, rough interiors, mechanical issues announced over the loudspeaker. And yet, there is always some dealer in the crowd who knows they can flip it if the price is low enough and the detail job is strong. Now this also happens with some mid-sized trucks that people buy for the look, not the work. They get lifted, big wheels, loud exhausts, but underneath, the front-end components wear out fast, the transmissions run hot, and the frames start to show rust early. So by the time they hit that auction lane, they look tough and drive tired. Eesh. I had one of those trucks on my lift, where every ball joint and tie rod end was loose. Rear leaf springs were sagging, and the transmission pan looked like it had been baking fluid for years. And the owner still said, "But it looks so good." And that is the point. Some of these hated brands survive, because the styling sells, and the duts do not get inspected until it is too late. From a maintenance strategy angle, the people who survive owning these kinds of vehicles are the ones who are almost unreasonably proactive. Fluid changes early and often, inspections by someone who is not getting commission on service upsells, and a realistic understanding that once the repair bills start stacking, it might be smarter to cut losses before they explode. But most folks are busy living life. They are not thinking like fleet managers. And the hated brands count on that. They count on the fact that you will defer maintenance to save a little this month, even if it means paying a lot more later. And then they act shocked when you come in furious that the transmission failed right after the warranty expired. If a brand shows up again and again in shops, auctions, and angry conversations, believe the pattern, not the commercial. And give your money to the companies that respect you enough to build machines that last. Yeah. Drive something you do not have to hate. Keep up with smart maintenance, and let everyone else chase the latest badge while you quietly stack miles and money. Do not forget to check the description for this week's top Amazon Auto Deals link.